Welcome to the Tales to Inspire podcast. Before we get started on this episode, I would like to invite you to our community so that you can hear more stories to inspire change within your life and positive change within the systems in which we live. All I want you to do is to click on the subscribe button. Your comments mean the world to us with anything that's resonated with you, and I absolutely love your support. I can't wait to go on this journey alongside you. Thank you so much for subscribing. Let's get into today's episode.
Why do you do what you do? It's a question I get asked a lot, and the truth is there are many reasons. But when I take a moment to really reflect, one of the biggest reasons Tales to Inspire exists is because I had a powerful realization about privilege. Despite facing challenges of my own, my starting point in life was still far ahead of many others, often through no fault of their own, simply because of the family I was born into, the country I live in, the opportunities available to me, and the fact that my health has, for the most part, been intact. That awareness changed something in me. It created a responsibility, not rooted in guilt, but in empathy and in action. As we reflect on the many themes that have emerged across the stories that we've shared, today's episode focuses on one that sits at the very heart of Tales to Inspire, supporting marginalised communities. In this episode, I'll be reflecting on the lived experiences of three powerful stories from our Tales to Inspire champions: Yatin Mistry, Jenny Van Mputu Dakosta, and Alex Winstanley. Before we go any further, I want to pause and ask you something. When you hear the phrase marginalised community, what comes to mind? Who do you think of? How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel anger that inequality still exists? Sadness for the people affected? Hope when you can see resilience and strength within those communities? Or perhaps uncertainty because you don't feel that you know enough? These questions matter because how we feel shapes how we act. In episode 150, Yatin Mistry offers a powerful definition of what it means to be part of a marginalised community.
Talking about supporting marginalised communities, can you tell me, Yatin, the definition, your definition of what a marginalised community is?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess if I give it as an example, for example, you've got the queer community, and a lot of people would say the queer community is a marginalised community because one, they're not the majority, and two, they tend to suffer from a lot of prejudice, from one shape, form or another. Another example, because I happen to relate to both of these, is let's say being brown in this country, which is majority Caucasian. That'd probably be another marginalised community. Not probably, it is a marginalised community. Again, because of the prejudices they face, So for example, I think concepts like the glass ceiling, So you're working at work and you're doing really well, you're working really hard, but there'll come a point where you potentially can't surpass that barrier, and that potentially could be because you're brown, or it could be because you're gay or lesbian or trans. It could even be because you're the protected characteristics. So it could be because you're a woman, because you're disabled, etc. But marginalised communities tend to be communities, groups of people that have traditionally been inferior. Now, you've got two different aspects. So you've got the marginalised communities in this country. So like Asians, for example, it's an example of a marginalised community, but that's in this country. That same community in India or in China, for example, wouldn't be marginalised because that's the majority. So it comes down to that idea of prejudice, where a community is facing that sense of prejudice. This is my definition. I don't know what the dictionary definition is.
We'll check it out later.
But so that's kind of how I see marginalised communities.
So what are some common traits then? I know there's many different marginalised communities, but what are some of the common traits to be able to support those different marginalised communities?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think one would be, don't be afraid to ask. Like, are you okay? This is something that people, we're human beings, we're social creatures, we're interconnected on so many different levels. So when you see some sort of kind of prejudice or something that you think, that person's struggling, go up to them and ask them, are you okay? Is there anything I could do to kind of help out? Because that's quite important. Infrastructure, like from a more policy or, on a bigger scale kind of thing, policy being in place. So the NHS, for example, it could be doing work towards making sure that marginalised communities their healthcare needs are being met, So the trans community is a good example. We have a lot of transphobic rhetoric going on in the government, unfortunately, and so that spills into society. But, making sure that doctors and nurses are aware of the right type of questions. So if someone comes up, look, I prefer to be called he, even though they physically look like a she, respecting that because that's their identity. Or things like, let's say you're an Asian person and you wear the hijab, for example, and so you might not be as comfortable being seen by a male doctor, and having that respected in some way. Now I get that, sometimes you can't always do that, but wherever you can, those kind of things are, I'd say, places or things that you could do to kind of help out. There's probably loads more, but
And on that front then, how do we change the rhetoric or the current norm to one that's a better norm?
So there's an expression, change comes from within, right? But I'd actually say in this instance, I'd say it comes through dialogue. Comes through conversation. So the fact that we're having this conversation, we come from different minorities. Maybe we're not minorities. I mean, clearly it's obvious that we're a minority in one sense. I think the idea that having these conversations, it broadens the horizon. I've had lots of conversations with different people from different groups. Some people are a little bit more, let's just say, on the fringes of not understanding certain minority groups' challenges and difficulties that they go through. Because I wouldn't necessarily know I don't have the lived experience of a trans person. I don't have the lived experience of a black person. I don't have the lived experience of a disabled person, let's just say. But having dialogue with people like that and having conversations starts that process of actually starting to understand. And then with that, having a bit of love, compassion, understanding, a bit of tolerance, that makes me realize that actually the next time I see a set of stairs and no lift in a building, I'll be thinking, actually, that disabled person would better get up there if they're wheelchair bound, for example. That's through conversation. So that's, I think, an element that's quite important. There's conversations, And when I say change comes within, I think within as a community, I'm saying as by and large, do you know what I mean? Yes, the disabled community, yes, the brown community and the black community and the gay community and the queer community and, refugee community and the migrant communities can be speaking up, but we also need allies, and that's also important. So I think in this instance, you need both sides kind of thing. So
Yatin speaks about the idea of a glass ceiling, a point beyond which certain groups are made to feel they cannot pass, not because of ability, but because of perception, prejudice, and systemic barriers. He reflects on what it feels like to be made to feel inferior, and how damaging that experience can be over time. What really stands out is Yatin's emphasis on dialogue. Conversation has the power to bridge gaps, challenge assumptions, and expand our understanding of one another's realities. Dialogue doesn't erase difference, it humanises it. Here in the UK, disabled people are nearly twice as likely to live in poverty compared to non-disabled people, according to the UK Department for Work and Pensions. People from ethnic minority backgrounds face persistent employment gaps, earning on average 10 to 15% less than white counterparts, even when qualifications are equal. Asylum seekers and refugees are often prohibited from working for long periods, contributing to enforced poverty and poor mental health, according to the Refugee Council UK. These aren't personal failings. These are all systemic realities. Alex Winstanley, founder of Happy Smiles Training, speaks deeply and personally in episode 154 about why supporting marginalised communities, particularly people with disabilities, matters so much to him.
Our theme is talking about supporting marginalised communities. And Alex, can you tell me a little bit more about why marginalised communities are so important to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. The why is just because I've seen for 10 years now, disabled people particularly being marginalised, not being given opportunities, not being valued as individuals, as people, as professionals. So not being given those opportunities that someone who looks like myself maybe would. And that had a big sort of driving factor. That was a big driving factor as to why I've ended up sort of in the position where I'm at now today. So that's the why, and I think, the reason, that's the reason why I do what I do. I think in terms of what a marginalised community might look like, I'm not just really passionate about disability inclusion, I'm also just passionate about inclusion in general, for people from a range of diverse communities. And I think a marginalised community often looks as looks like someone or a community who have a voice and aren't just not heard, but also often don't feel worthy of having their voice heard. Like they've been that driven down by the system. Like we live in systems that, and I'm not going to get political, but like, you know, we live in systems that are so like ingrained to give people privilege and to give people opportunity, but not give others. And we think we know these things. We think, yeah, you know, disabled people, look at, recently there was some news, I don't know if you saw it, the government are looking at, like, and Rishi Sunak, I'm getting political, the government even came out and said, like, we're gonna scrap disability benefits, you know, for a lot of people who can't work from home, because people should be working from home. You know, if they can work from home, they should be working from home. And it's like, hang on a minute. So are you telling someone who might identify as a disabled person that they have to work from home? You're going to take away all that social inclusion, and you're just going to keep reinforcing the social isolation that disabled people often experience. And that's, I think, the case for a lot of marginalised communities. And everyone just thinks, yeah, this is the norm, you know. In Wigan, we're 97% white or whatever it is, something like that. And suddenly you start seeing people who aren't white, and it's like, oh, and people are shocked by it as if it's something that shouldn't be the case. And I just think that has driven marginalised communities to feeling not worthy of having the voice as well. So that just continues that cycle of, you know, I'm a disabled person, so I'm not going to vote because what does it matter? And someone then expects, well, you're a disabled person, so why should you vote? And it just continues that, if that makes sense. And I'm probably not making sense, but I am in my head. So yeah, that's how I see marginalised communities, I suppose, and why I'm really passionate about supporting those to have their voices heard and valued and celebrated.
But as a society, then, on top of that, Alex, is how do we change that? What do we do?
It's another great question, and it's for me, the short answer is people with lived experience. I'm so passionate about lived experience. So people with lived experiences need to be in the positions of power where they have the opportunity to make decisions and have that influence. You know, look at, again, I don't want to get political, but the Minister for Disabled People, for example, I don't know if there's ever been a disabled person in that position, as an example, making, you know, having that influence in decisions. I think it's just so rare. I'm trying to think now that it is extremely rare to have people with lived experience of marginalisation who are the people then who are the decision makers in communities. And not just in communities, because there's so many, you know loads of great community leaders we're both connected with and both know. And yeah, you've got those people doing great work, but then you've got people at, I don't know, maybe local authorities, you know, where how many people are marginalised from marginalised communities in those really influential roles. That's what needs to change for me, and that's how I think we start to make change.
I love that, and I think from my perspective, I'm completely biased, just like you on this front, is essentially lived experience is priceless. Yeah. Like, yes, you can look at books and academia, and it's important, and research and this and that, but unless you've lived it, you don't truly understand the empathetic view. You can't connect to it. You don't truly understand. Rishi Sunak doesn't know what's going on with a person who's a disabled person in a house.
Yeah, 100%.
He's never felt that. He's never understood it. He's never lived it. Like, so it's really important. I always say there's a great phrase is, I would never teach someone to swim by saying, here, go and read that book.
Yeah.
Because when you get in that lake or that pool, that's not going to do you no good because you've never tried swimming.
100%.
Right? So it's kind of that real essence of, actually, it's so important to ensure that lived experience is really used. So I love that.
Alex reminds us how easy it can be to be lifted up by systems when they work for you, and how easy it is to be battered down by them when they don't. He speaks about how marginalised communities are often made to feel isolated, lonely, and oppressed, surrounded by questions with very few answers. But how do we change the narrative? How do we change culture? Alex centres lived experience as the key to meaningful change.
Not theory, not assumption, but reality. When he questions whether the Minister for Disabled People has ever lived with a disability, it cuts to the core of why Tales to Inspire exists. When we share stories in schools, workplaces and communities, it's not to lecture, it's to make it real, to share truths that textbooks often miss. But what about supporting communities we may not immediately identify with? In episode 152, we hear from the incredible Jenny Van Mputu Dakosta, who shares his lived experience as an asylum seeker.
So Jenny, how can we best support refugee communities?
The best way, on my opinion, as a refugee myself, I passed through a lot difficult I face in this British society. I got ample experience. I have been more time homeless. I face a lot of challenge as a homeless, as an asylum seeker first, before I became granted to remain in this country. So they are refugees, they are struggling with money. No money for food, but money to manage, to build the case. They got a story. Some of refugees, they don't speak English. That is the big challenge. They don't know where to start, where to go, who to meet. That one you see the organization like Red Cross, Refugee Support, Migrant Help. They try to help by administration case. But before you go to the Home Office, you need to build your case. The reason why I have changed myself, personal case, to meet people, some organization in Manchester, I don't know if it affects you to say the name, but I meet some organization, 2 free only. They can support you with a little money for transport. Example, I live in Manchester. I have to go for interview or to meet a lawyer in the Rotherham. Myself, I used to go to Rotherham, Yorkshire, Sheffield, between Sheffield and Doncaster, small city. When you go from Manchester, £28 for train. I have no job. Home Office refused my case, so I must pay train to go there. It's important not to meet lawyer only, but to prepare to meet people they got expertise who can help refugee. I say about asylum seeker. And when you've been rejected, you lost the house accommodation, Home Office, nurse department who support, nurse support. They used to give you money, £41 a week to buy food. In some case, they don't give you cash money, they give you voucher. You cannot use voucher to go to buy train ticket. So those people, they don't speak English. They have to travel. They have to go around UK. I used to go for some reason in Glasgow myself, Middlesbrough. I used to go Peterborough. I used to go Cardiff. So financially first, that you see people, they have nothing, they stay in this country 20 years, 10 years, 12 years without a paper, going around, going to the church, dropping for food, for coffee. Some people, they don't have a place to sleep. So in the term, we're gonna speak what was happened to me later, but I try to bring down some things, money. People don't want to listen about money. We don't ask for money to buy clothes. No. We don't ask for money. We want to, like I say, only one example. I used to go around the UK to build my case, find evidence. There are Congolese community, maybe someone who can support my case to bring to my lawyer put it in the context to send to the Home Office that they call fresh claim. Submit fresh claim. So fresh claim means you have your case being rejected by Home Office. It's not because you say wrong or you lie, but Home Office, I'm sorry.
They make a decision.
No. They make decision by emotion. Someone can just take your case, put on the computer, copy, paste, cut. After 3 months, he send you reject.
For no reason.
No reason.
So then the thing that you're really saying is it's not about money, it's about accessibility. How can you get access to the lawyers, to the different places around the country for you to build your case? And many refugees around the whole of the UK. This is a problem that you're saying.
It's a very common number one problem.
Number one.
I keep saying there is difference. Asylum seeker and the refugee, don't confuse. There is big difference, extreme in opposition. In left side, you start to be asylum seeker. When you came to United Kingdom, you go to the Home Office to claim asylum seeker. You are no refugee. Refugee is the global topic, global, everyone, different department. Like immigration is about everyone. Students come here, someone came for work, they are immigrant. But asylum seeker, nobody support them. All the things I thank God for England is a British society, British people. I don't say British government. I say British people. Like you go to the church, the pastor help you. You go to the mosque, the imam help you. He give you money to buy transport. Is from British people contribution. So we are little bit safe in the United Kingdom, not because of we need, but because we are lucky to meet British people who support vulnerable people, include asylum seeker. When you are asylum seeker, you have 85% life struggling minute. Before we jump, I have to say this. When I was asylum seeker, 95% of my time, I used to spend to the McDonald's, carrying my laptop. And this laptop given by my friends, you know them, Jake, Jill, Liam Steer, and my friend, they bore me because they support me. I have to build 24-hour evidence regarding what happened in my country. I have to find the news, update news every single minute. So when I meet them, 2018, on this time, I spent already 12 years as homeless. So I have to go to McDonald's for 2 reasons. First of all, I can use Wi-Fi for free. And secondly, I can stay there overnight in the winter, no place to go. When the laptop have a problem, God, because I'm a Christian, I trust in God, Holy can help me. He connect me with you. Let me tell you, the best gift I got in my life since I'm in this country, the laptop you give me. This laptop I will keep. Even my grandchildren, they will use. Because I didn't ask you money. I didn't need money. I need laptop to build my case. That is make me today, I'm become refugee. I was asylum seeker when I meet you, almost 5 years ago. The first time we meet, you give me something is more than £1 million. So, if I'm lucky to meet you, to meet Jake, to meet Alex Denniston, 95% of asylum seekers, they don't know where to start, where to go. They are facing challenge. The big challenge as well is the language. Someone from Sudan speak Arabic. Someone from Congo, my country, I speak French, my first language. When I came here, I never read, I don't know how to say, you are welcome. I have to say, thank you, goodbye, what is your name? That's it. But I have to build, everything is in English. So you have to go to college to learn English. If you don't speak English in this country, everything is blocked. You are facing big challenge, your life is gonna be worse. So, help money to access, learn English, to speak to even the lawyer. There are some organizations, they don't have interpret. So you have to improve yourself English to access with in the community. So the Asylum Seeker Life, if you can, as an organization, we expect from you to try. I have to be honest. People, they have a difficult to express their need. They are blocked. So when we go to drop in, maybe Red Cross organize drop in. They give you food, like food parcel, same like food bank. Yeah. But administration case, they don't help you. They don't give you money for the transport to travel. So you need example to collect funding.
To give you that support.
To give support, not to give cash. To buy, example, you have appointment, £4.50, okay. Example, I'm not going far, no use train for £80, but I have to go to Huddersfield. I have to I need day saver from Piccadilly. We used to have a one bus first company, 184, from Piccadilly to Huddersfield. I used to go twice a week, one organization to help me to build my case in Huddersfield.
That costs money.
It costs money. Man. You go to Bolton, there is a dash. They help people. You can print documents, you can use a computer. You need to go to Bolton. You need money.
Jenny speaks about the relentless barriers placed in his path. Travelling from Manchester to Rotherham with no money. Being prohibited from working, living with constant uncertainty, knowing that returning home could mean risking his life. Too often the narratives we see in the media are designed to divide us, to distract us from questioning the systems that we live in. The reality is that the enemy of the working class people is not those who are homeless, not disabled people, not asylum seekers, not people of colour, not young people. The real issue lies in systems and decision-making structures that prioritise ego, power and profit over people. Leadership should be rooted in service. Its responsibility should be the welfare, health, dignity and integrity of the people it exists to support. Once again, this is why lived experience matters. Yatin, Alex and Jenny each share something deeply powerful, their true selves, their authentic selves. They remind us of the power of dialogue, of not prejudging someone based on single characteristics, of seeing potential where society too often sees limitation, and of showing up for one another, consistently, humanely, and compassionately. There are three key lessons that I've taken from this. Number one, that marginalisation is systemic and not individual. Inequality is not about effort, it's about access, opportunity, and power. Number two, that lived experience is essential for change. Policies without lived experience lack empathy and often miss the mark. And number three, dialogue is the bridge. Conversations break down fear, prejudice, and misunderstanding. One action point that I'm taking away is that this week, choose dialogue. Listen to a story you wouldn't normally hear. Ask a question with genuine curiosity. Create a space for someone else's lived experience without trying to fix it. Because understanding begins when we listen.
Thank you for watching today's episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please leave a comment in the comment section below, and we cannot wait to see you for our next episode.